When you're down to your last bit of luck, when your hands are empty and the world's turned its back, survival stops being about what you own and becomes about what you know. That's where the drifters of the Great Depression had everyone beat. They weren't preppers with fancy packs or soldiers with issued kits. They were men and women who could turn scrap heaps, forgotten railsides and junk piles into working survival systems. What they carried wasn't found in stores, it was found in the margins of society. And, the deeper you study their methods, the more you realize these drifters were early masters of practical, improvised survival. Today, we're peeling back the rust and dirt to uncover the hidden tools of America's forgotten nomads, and how their resourcefulness can still save your skin when modern convenience fails. The drifter's toolkit was built from what society threw away. During the 1930s, countless people took to the rails or the road after the stock market collapse. These were not aimless wanderers. They were craftsmen of survival. A true drifter could walk into a junkyard and walk out with half a toolkit in his coat. The discarded lids of tin cans became patch metal, scraping blades, or even emergency cook surfaces. A section of baling wire might serve as a snare line, a fishhook, or a pot handle. Everything had a second life, and waste was a word that simply didn't exist. What made these tools so powerful wasn't their shine, but their adaptability. A small file salvaged from a broken knife could sharpen an edge, strike sparks against flint, or grind down a nail into a usable needle. If you've ever repaired a tool using parts from another, you've stepped into that same tradition. Next time you're at a scrapyard or even your own garage, look at materials with that mindset. A length of copper wire, a hinge, a bottle cap, they're all potential assets when you think like a drifter. You'll never find a drifter without some method to start fire. Matchbooks stolen from freight stations or half-burned ends of candles were common treasures. But honestly, the real ingenuity was in their makeshift tools. A shard of glass and a tin mirror could focus sunlight onto dry lint. Steel wool and a dead flashlight battery could spark a flame in seconds. They often carried cotton from old jackets mixed with grease as tinder, a trick that works even today when camping in damp conditions. For food, traps and scavenge tools made all the difference. A bent nail and a bit of cordage pulled from an old sack could be twisted into a fishhook or snare trigger. Drifters also used hobo stoves, built from coffee tins, with punched holes for airflow. These burned efficiently with small twigs and let them cook almost anywhere discreetly. You can build one yourself with a metal can, a screwdriver, and 10 minutes of patience. It's not just a historical curiosity. It's one of the best low-fuel portable stoves you can make for emergencies. Every drifter carried something that could mend gear, a pocketful of nails wire or bits of leather cut from old boots. It wasn't luxury, it was necessity. If your shoes tore, you use fence wire to stitch them. If your bag ripped, you reinforced it with a can lid hammered flat. They'd use resin from trees as glue or candle wax to waterproof seams. It's a mindset every survivalist should internalize: repair, reuse, repurpose. One of the most practical ways to bring that spirit forward is to assemble your own junk drawer kit. Toss in short lengths of wire safety pins, pieces of metal strapping, and scraps of cloth. These aren't glamorous tools, but when something breaks outdoors, like a tent pole or a strap, they'll become priceless. Just like the drifters, you'll have what you need, not because you bought it, but because you kept it. Drifters didn't rely on compasses or detailed charts. They read the world around them, rail lines, wind direction, and the position of moss on trees. They also used a secret language of chalk marks, known as hobo signs, scratched on fences or doorways. These signs warned of dangerous towns, friendly farmers, or good water sources. It was survival intelligence in code form. You can still use the principles behind it today. When hiking, learn to mark trails with natural materials. Stacked stones, bent twigs, or carved symbols to retrace your steps or leave signals. If you're part of a small outdoor group, develop your own simple symbol set for communication without words. It's not nostalgia, it's resilience. A drifter didn't have the luxury of tents or weatherproof coats. They turned canvas feed sacks into ponchos and tarps, stuffed straw into jackets for insulation, and patched everything with whatever they could scrounge. Even railroad tar paper became a rain shield when layered properly. That's knowledge worth reviving. Layering cheap oil-treated materials like old tarps, waxed cloth, or heavy plastic can create effective multi-use shelter systems. One excellent modern equivalent is to repurpose old construction wrap or painter's drop cloths, lightweight, waterproof, and easy to fold. Combine that with salvage cordage or twisted strips of fabric, and you have a survival tarp that costs almost nothing. When you start seeing discarded materials not as trash, but as unrefined resources, you step into the same mindset that allowed the drifters to survive storms, winters, and miles of uncertainty. What defined a drifter wasn't the tools he carried. It was his ability to create tools from what the world forgot. That's what separates survival from convenience. In a pinch, your greatest asset isn't a packed bag or an expensive knife. It's your adaptability, your eye for possibility, and your willingness to get your hands dirty. Try this as a challenge. Go one weekend using only items from your shed or garage to solve outdoor problems. Build a cooking stand, patch a hole, make a spark. You'll start to see materials the way the drifters did, not as junk, but as potential. That skill, once mastered, will stay with you for life. The drifters of the Great Depression weren't just wanderers. They were proof that knowledge and creativity can outlast any hardship. Their world was built from scraps, yet their ingenuity forged entire systems of survival that still hold up nearly a century later. So, next time you walk past a pile of discarded tools or a heap of rusting metal, think twice. Somewhere in there might be the key to your next fire, your next repair, or your next safe night outdoors. If you found value in uncovering these forgotten lessons, hit that subscribe button. Share this with a friend who appreciates real-world history, and keep learning from the people who turn nothing into everything. The old ways aren't gone. They're just waiting to be rediscovered.